lot of the time, actually, healers and therapists and people in the helping professions are carrying this sense that they don't want to be here, really. Not a suicidal belief, but it's more of a, oh, am I done yet? Come on. I mean, I've done my, I don't really want to be here, or Earth is really a horrible place and I'd rather be in spirit. Those sorts of beliefs. And they tend to be formed as we're incarnating. Because when we do incarnate, all our consciousness is being compressed into this physical reality. And that's hard because we get all our past or parallel lives concentrated into a 3D reality, and all our issues we can see, and we land with parents that are resonating with us, which is also really hard to accept.
Welcome to Changing the Channel with Joe Garner, a show about shifting our individual and collective beliefs on what is possible for the future of humanity. As our understanding of how our reality continues to shift, we are at a point of reunification between science and spirituality. What does the world look like when we break free from the generational trauma that has kept most humans playing small for thousands of years and step into our full power as the co-creators of this reality? I always ask that you keep an open mind with this podcast. Ask yourself what resonates with my truth at this time and what does not. Respect your intuition, but see if you can get through the whole show, because there might be that little nugget buried deep in the conversation that unlocks something for you.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Changing the Channel. I have another beautiful guest today. Her name is Melanie Swan. She is a multidimensional trauma healer and womb medicine woman. So welcome to the show, Melanie. Thank you so much for joining me today.
It was a pleasure, and hello, Joe, and everyone else.
Yes, and you're joining us from across the world, and that's amazing that technology allows us to have this communication, this conversation from, you being all the way out in, remind me again?
Thailand.
In Thailand. Yeah. We went over this before the show, and I just got so many things going on in my mind. Joining us from Thailand, and I'm here in Texas right now. And it's just amazing that we can have these conversations from such a distance, and just bringing our two worlds together to share in unique perspectives and have, hopefully this exchange of ideas from around the world. So bring us a little bit into your world. Who is Melanie Swan, and what has you the most excited right now?
Oh, I'll start with the most excited bit, I think. Just generally in life, or just with
Just
my
generally in life, and maybe a little bit about what you're working on as well.
Okay, well, generally in life, in 3 weeks' time, I'm going on a yoga and Muay Thai, which is a Thai kickboxing retreat for Christmas and New Year. So I'm really looking forward to that. Just switching off all the digital stuff and just having 3 weeks in rural Thailand and just being kind of quiet but also social. That's exciting to me.
Beautiful.
But work-wise, I'm writing a book. It's called The Sacred Womb. It's a slow process because I'm needing to become the book and live everything I say. And so that takes its time because I'm a human. Just a bit about my work. So I do mainly like lots of one-to-one sessions of multidimensional trauma healing. I'm very passionate about bringing the consciousness of the womb back into our normal daily lives and back into kind of our normal waking reality, because it's part of us, it's part of our body, and it holds our creative sovereignty. So I work with the physical womb, the metaphysical womb, and then connection with the collective womb. I think that's in a nutshell, that's what I do.
Are you feeling a little bit stuck? Like you've been doing the work, but you're just not sure what the next steps are? Right now, I'm offering coaching through meditation and intuition to tap into your soul, to get the hints about where your life is heading towards. What are the next steps for you? So if you're interested, check out the show notes and set up a time to just check. I've got a free 30-minute discovery call that you can sign up for. I look forward to hearing from you, and please feel free to reach out.
That's beautiful. So brings up many, many questions. So let's start with the first. Share with us what are we missing in Western world as far as the understanding of the womb, both physically and as from a metaphysical standpoint.
Okay. And this is not just Western as well, it's throughout the whole world. It's the womb has pretty much been cut out of every major religion and spiritual lineage. It's been forgotten, cut out, sometimes deliberately, sometimes not. So the womb essentially is this portal to the spirit world, which we all know, and that's a very practical thing because women birth babies. So, however, if we think about that in terms of it's a bridge from the metaphysical to the physical. The spirit lands in the body, or the consciousness lands in the body. And in this alchemical process, our womb center is this vessel that turns consciousness into matter and then brings it into this reality as babies. We can also do that with ideas that want to express in this reality for both our personal and collective evolution. And just in that way, it's a portal to the metaphysical, but it's a portal to the divine, because we're connecting to this collective womb that wants to birth stuff, that wants to help us evolve. So essentially, that's what the womb does. However, we've been shut down to that, and we've got a physical womb, which is our menstrual cycle. And we've got a metaphysical womb. It's the metaphysical organ, basically. There's a metaphysical organ for every organ, but our metaphysical womb holds all the beliefs about our cycle, about us as women, about what the womb is, about the womb isn't, both generationally and also from other lifetimes. We store those things there. We also store trauma there. Trauma is just pain that we couldn't feel at the time, so we store it up and put defenses around it, basically. And that can be trauma from medical experiences, from birthing children that's been difficult, from sexual abuse and sexual projections in society, from just our experiences as humans, basically. And with all that kind of stuff, what we do is we're in pain. Like, a high percentage of women are in pain every single month, and that's considered relatively normal and something that women just need to put up with and not okay. And it doesn't have to be that way. We can really enjoy our periods and our whole cycle because it takes us into our full range of being. And there's lots of talk about the divine feminine. But what is that? What is that? The rise of the divine feminine. What is it, though? And it's the feminine principle in creation is actually the unknown, the 0 point, the fulcrum point, something that we're actually familiar with, but we skip over it. And our menstrual cycle is trying to take us into that, to pull us into that every single month. And it's this wonderful system that is basically encoded within our bodies that we've forgotten. So my work basically is to help bring back awareness to that, help us love our bodies, love our cyclical nature, and bring it back into daily life so that we can actually embody the wisdom of our womb.
Beautiful.
Did that make sense?
It did make sense. It made sense to me, at least.
Good.
And what it brings up for me is the idea of the metaphysical womb birthing essentially ideas into the world, and a properly functioning metaphysical womb probably has ease birthing new ideas, new thought forms, new just ways to look at things. that might not have been apparent beforehand?
Yeah, I mean, it's my experience of it is that it's for both our personal and collective evolution. We bring through energy into our body. That energy works us as well. So we have to become it. So, is it done with ease? It depends how easy it is for the human to change. So probably not necessarily just like it's not just like channeling. It's more like bringing through the whole body, the whole system of one's psyche. So it's not necessarily easy, but when we're doing our work and when we know what's happening and when we're going with the flow of it and when we keep it moving, yes, there is a flow to it. Yes, there is a process to it. But yeah, it definitely works us.
Right. Now, what are some tips over the years that you've picked up to help stay in that flow or to better facilitate a more flowing experience from, birthing new ideas, bringing new ideas, new identities in through that metaphysical womb?
Yeah. Well, of course, we can't separate the physical from the metaphysical. So one kind of big stage really is making friends with our whole menstrual cycle, and a kind of good percentage of the world operates on women just have a kind of a flat cycle, and then occasionally we feel a bit horny, and then about a week later we're kind of grumpy, and then we cry a little bit, and then we bleed, and then it's all a bit like, what happened? And then the cycle starts again. But if we think about the cycle as a circle, it's making friends with all of that and all of the changes that go on around the month take us into different states of being. So what we've tried to do is kind of squash that and become more linear like men, which is also valuable, but it's just not our natural state. So the first step is really making friends with our whole cycle and understanding that our moon time, that our period is a natural state of meditation. Like it's bringing us in. And so one tip I would give is to rest during the period, just to clear the diary for at least, if you've never done it before, half an hour. If you've done that for a couple of months, it's okay. Do a full afternoon. If you're like me, 3 days. 3 days. 3 days in my moon cave. I've just come out of my moon cave, actually. And it's so rejuvenating to be with that nothingness and the clear out that now I'm slowly emerging for a new cycle. So that's my number one tip for embracing the womb again, is to understand that the cycle is a whole cycle. It's there to support us and to rest during moon time. And then with the metaphysical process of co-creating, it's really to know that we can, that's our natural state, and that's one of the biggest traumas on the planet, that we've disconnected from the fact that we are an aspect, we are an expression of the Creator, and that we can co-create our world for want of a better term, really like the good of all beings. We can co-create that on love, but to do that we need to become love within us and clear what's blocking that and really remember what and who we truly are. So, I mean, it's not necessarily a tip, but it's more a way of life, of really just doing the work and connecting to our womb and connecting to our body and really bringing through love by being that every single day as much as possible.
Do you have any tips for men who are, trying to be creative in the world and bringing in their own creative ideas? I mean, do these principles transfer over to them as well, as the divine masculine and the divine feminine really do start to come together? And some humans, it does seem like they've embodied both the masculine and the feminine. They've found that balance between the duality and merged it into this kind of unified creative process. And it's amazing to see that. So, you know, do these ideas also transfer over to the aspect?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you asked that as well, because obviously you're a man and you've got male listeners as well. So um, it absolutely does apply to men. And what men can do is connect to, I think it's called the Hara and the Dantian in different traditions, is to just an inch under the belly button, um, we can put our hands there and just drop into that space within the body. And it's our space of, your space of creation, and it's the access point to the collective womb. So yeah, men can do it as well. It's just you're only the third man that's asked me that, so it's lovely to be asked. I would welcome working with men to do that, because I'll talk about the masculine and feminine now, because we can all do it. We're all expressions of creation. We just need to, for men, they just generally need to connect with that divine feminine principle within, because that's more dissociated from men, because we're in this reality and those two aspects of creation are split. So it's important for men to like really connect with that 0 point and the unknown, because you've not got that menstrual cycle that draws you in every month. Your kind of hormones are less connected to the moon, they're more connected to the sun. So to know that that's there, and to know that it can be connected with, yeah, it's great. And I'm happy to share that with any men that ask. But also for women, what we've done is pushed away. Well, our masculine is split when we get into this reality, as the feminine is for you. And our kind of job, our task as women, to help turn this womb into an alchemical pot, and for men to help that space turn into activate that space as well, is to like reincorporate the thing that we think we're not. So women, for example, are really good generally at having ideas, inspiration that is based on collective evolution, but they really struggle to implement it. And there's a lot of anger towards men and the so-called patriarchy, and down with it, smash it. And what we're doing is our own masculine is part of the patriarchy. We're co-creating these structures that are disconnected and hierarchical and power over. So what I get women to do is own their masculine part, own the projections. It's becoming a bit of a dumping ground in the whole kind of spiritual awakening world of, oh, it's my I'm in my masculine today, I'm pushing. That's bullshit. It's when we're in our heads, it's because of our trauma. We've come out of our bodies and we're operating in that way. It's nothing to do with the masculine. I myself have owned and re-embodied my masculine nature, and it's beautiful. It's very consistent. It's very supportive. It holds my inner authority, and it just lit up my womb when it came back and went all in. It's like a crystalline phallus. So, but my feminine energy, so to speak, when that came back, just went. And that's what I didn't know I'd been longing for. It was just a beautiful experience. And there's no need for me to kind of balance the masculine and feminine anymore, because it just is one. That's how it is supposed to be, really. That's its natural state. To me, there's no masculine and feminine anymore. There's just this one consciousness that feels in unison, that moves me forward in a really beautiful way. But yeah, men can do the same and own their feminine, and all the projections, and the trauma with the overly emotional mother, and all that kind of thing. And once it's cleared, it can totally come back and be restored and work as one.
Yeah. I found on my journey, it's been interesting as I've gotten out of, my basically pure masculine essence, which was the first 33 years of my life, and started bringing in some creativity and tuning into and turning on some of my, feminine qualities, which has been connection to source and finding, clear sentience and clear audience, being able to tap into that, being able to, commune with the earth and with other heavenly bodies, that for a brief period of time, I've kind of lost that masculine essence of myself. I couldn't take the ideas and turn them into physical, physical representations. I couldn't be the physical creator, the creator energy of these ideas that I was bringing into. And it's been interesting to, as I've journeyed through this and worked through some of that, a lot of that trauma, and still plenty of work to do. But as I've gone through that trauma, I've gotten that masculine creation energy back, and it's starting to show up in what I'm creating, and just being able to take this idea, which was the podcast, and turn it into, almost a machine where I can crank them out and, have the conversation, but it doesn't bog me down with all the intricacies of what I need to do on the back end and how to
Yeah.
promote it and do all of that stuff. It's just, I put it out, I send it out. I know that it's working towards my highest good and my highest representation, and I'm excited to just kind of see where that goes and see where it takes me, instead of having, that masculine identity, which is you're at point A and you need to get to point B, and how do you get there the fastest?
Yeah.
I've kind of melded the two, the masculine and the feminine, to build a good bicycle, but not know exactly where that bicycle is going,
Yeah.
right? Like that's kind of what I would represent this journey for me in the last couple of months as being.
Yeah. So you're owning the unknown. That's great. Because one thing that when I work with women is hardest thing to do is to not know where it's going, to just put some steps forward and have a kind of plan and be able to bring it to this reality, but not know why or where it's going, or if it's going to make money, or what it's going to be, or what's going to happen when we put it out there. Yeah, let's just go for it. Yeah, so fabulous.
Yeah, I needed that. I struggle with that on a um again, I'm almost tied into the moon, so around the full moon, like in the last couple of days,
Oh,
I get into this headspace where it's like, all right, I need to know where I'm going. I need to understand what I'm doing, and I look back on the last 2 or 3 weeks, and it's like, well, I've done all of this stuff, but it hasn't gotten me to a point where I think that I need to be.
mhm.
And it's interesting to see how, for whatever reason, my consciousness has almost been tied to the moon cycles, and
Oh,
that, I mean, it feels really good. It feels like it's just a good reminder, like, okay, maybe what it's telling me is that I should spend a little bit more time grounded and in the physical world, instead of into the 0 point, and see if that might be a little bit more of what is needed, instead of spending all my time kind of daydreaming about what could be, but actually making it happen. And just reflecting on that, and being able to reflect on that has been pretty powerful. And at least over the last year, it has been pretty well tied to the moon cycle.
oh, wow,
Full
brilliant.
moon brings it in. It brings in this, like, questioning the space where I'm like, am I doing enough? Am I not doing too? Am I doing too much? Am I, on the right path or not? And it's been powerful for me to have that experience, and to consciously understand why it's happening. It's not just a random set of events, but it is typically tied to the full moon.
Oh, great. Great.
So you talk a lot about Healing and recalibrating the incarnation and gestational experience. So maybe we can talk a little bit about that and what you mean by recalibrating. Again, the incarnation, the gestation being the time within the womb, and then the incarnation when the soul enters the body.
Yeah. Okay.
How can we recalibrate that?
Okay. So incarnation, I never realized there was so much there. So I've done my own work on this, and I work with other people. And how we incarnate sets the tone for our lives. So my experience is that we're in this kind of time, space, and place before we incarnate, and it's usually pretty nice, and there's usually support there, and this is the general pattern of it. It's not for everyone, but I'll just have to give some sort of example because people won't know what I'm talking about otherwise. And we kind of get notice. We get our papers. We get the call. Okay, we're going to Earth, and for me anyway, that was right. Okay. The emotions are different there, so it's like, oh, okay, great. Okay, so I say my goodbyes, and I go towards this void, and like, oh, no thanks. Oh. Then there's the memory comes up of all the different incarnations, and it's hard. It's quite it's an intense place to be. It's where our consciousness gets compressed and we can see everything. So as I incarnated, I could see my mother's energy before I landed in her womb. And I changed my mind. I thought, no, not her. I don't want to come. And so I tried to kind of put the brakes on my life force, really. And of course, it's too powerful. It's too powerful to stop. So plop, in I go to the womb. And then the attachment template starts to form as we're incarnating and landing in the womb. And the state of a woman's womb space is the environment for this young psyche that actually gets formed just as we're incarnating. So yeah, we've got a soul, we've got all the issues and themes that we're bringing, but we do have this new kind of psyche that forms that's very young and is present when we land in the womb. So I'll come back to that bit, but I'll go back to the incarnation. So it's so fast when we incarnate. It's like, it's so fast that we get these beliefs that form and these defenses that form that are with us our whole lives until we can realize that that's what it is. So sometimes, a lot of the time, actually, healers and therapists and people in the helping professions are carrying this sense that they don't want to be here, really. Not a suicidal belief, but it's more of a, oh, am I done yet? Come on. I mean, I've done my... I don't really want to be here, or Earth is really a horrible place, and I'd rather be in spirit. Those sorts of beliefs. And they tend to be formed as we're incarnating, because when we do incarnate, all our consciousness is being compressed into this physical reality. And that's hard because we get all our past or parallel lives concentrated into a 3D reality, and all our issues we can see, and we land with parents that are resonating with us, which is also really hard to accept. So through really slowing it down, we do a regression. We really slow it down. We revisit that time, place, and space. And also what I remembered there was all the gifts and all the strengths and the energy I came with, which is hugely helpful for processing in gestation, because I knew that I just had everything I needed. So I was okay. So I could process and all that charge from that gestational period. So yeah, we slow it right down. We look at anything that couldn't be felt at the time. We look at any love that was present, any strength as well, and amplify that. because we can't change the past. We can't change what happened. What we can do is process it, and the charge comes out.
Mm-hmm.
And then so we land in this womb. And look, because we've been disconnected from the womb and pushed away from our menstrual cycle because we're in pain, it's really common for spirits to land in the womb and go, "Oh, it's a bit empty. Mum doesn't know I'm here." Or some people say, "Oh, this is full of cobwebs," or "this full of black bits," or "it's just cold and it's just a bit like a damp cave." We don't really want that. We want a nice womb that's juicy and full of love and connected, and mum knows we're there, and all that kind of stuff. So that's very important for changing our reality, that we actually have a womb with love and that we conceive babies with love, because, you know, as babies, as spirits, we can sense the consciousness of our parents at conception. So, well, that's that bit. I can talk about gestation, but do you have any questions or comments so far?
Yeah, the only thing that kind of comes up for me is, again, I think we all decide the time and space that we incarnate, right? And a lot of us, especially during this kind of ascension process, have chosen to incarnate into cold, black, dark wombs because that's a part of the process that we're coming here to explore and expand. It's like, okay, you've made it. You've had some incarnations where you came into a beautiful home, a loving, caring home, and you learned certain particular lessons. But what happens if we take you and put you into a place that isn't as fertile, as loving, as caring, and as as perfect as it could be? And that's what it feels like to me, is a lot of the lessons that we're learning on a collective basis is what happens if, this group of loving, caring people incarnate into a world that has forgotten what the divine masculine and the divine feminine are, and how it's supposed to be versus how it has happened, on this planet during this period of evolution in humanity.
I understand what you're saying. My experience was a bit different, because and when I work with people, it's a bit different because we're not these kind, pure, kind, loving, caring people. We've got our stuff to look at, for sure,
Mm-hmm.
and the themes that we are carrying in our soul vibrate at a certain rate, and that's what has us landing with the parents that we do, because we are resonant with them. That's not meaning to say we're doing the same things as them, or we're abusive and that's where we've landed and it's our karma and it's our punishment. That's not what I'm saying at all. It's that the vibration makes the choice, and that vibrational rate has us landing in a similar vibration. And of course, then we say, oh, well, it's been passed on through our generational lineages. True to a certain extent. But if there's poverty, let's say, in our parents and our generational lineages, then sure, we need to process it in this life. It's useful if our ancestors want to process that. However, where it's really rooted is in our own consciousness. And that, I feel, it's not necessarily a belief I have, it's just what works with myself and the people I've worked with. So it all comes back to our own consciousness, really. Yeah. This is my
and that's kind of the idea that I'm saying. Like, your consciousness is coming into this world to experience that darker, that maybe colder womb aspect of reality, and that's why you're, I guess, with the language you're using, like the frequency that your soul is at the time of incarnation brings it to this world during this time. Right? It's like, this is why you're here, because for whatever reason your soul was vibrating at a certain level, at
in some
level
way, and I need, having this physical experience of it means that it's painful enough for me, because humans are a bit, we're not the brightest in a way. We need something right in our face. Oh, is that it? Oh, it's not me. Oh, it is me. We need it right in our face. So yes, that was definitely right in my face when I landed in this kind of cold, empty womb. That as well as my kind of bigger mission in this incarnation, was to highlight that we're landing in empty wombs, and it's doing things to the young psyche, and it's forming attachment templates to the disconnected, really. So yeah, we've all got stuff to learn, and that's where I landed.
So speaking of learning and understanding and figuring out kind of your calling and the reason you're here,
Yeah.
you've been able to tap into your intuition, into the intelligence of your body. Share with us a little bit of how you do that and how you use intuition both in, your personal life as well as teaching others to kind of tap into the intelligence of their own body.
Okay. Just I'll answer that in two parts. I think one, the intuition of my own body. I guess I started really tuning into that when I started my therapy training. And therapists, I had several good therapists, and they were asking me to just tune into the sensations in my body. And even though I could talk about emotions, I was quite articulate in emotions and psychology, I wasn't so connected to the sensation of it. So emotion is actually, we can kind of see it now as it's a cognitive description of affect. Affect is the physical, chemical, biological experience of, let's take an example of being embarrassed. We might feel hot, we might feel tight in the chest, there might be a kind of flush of red or something on the face. That's the actual experience, and we just, as humans, we need something to explain that, and so we call that embarrassed. So I might be talking to you and say, I was really embarrassed when I tripped over the other day and people saw me. But what I can tell you, but I can still be dissociated from the actual physical experience. And so through my own personal work and my training as well, I've got to know the experience, the bodily experience of my experience, rather than focusing on the description of it, which is what we call emotion. And if there is something tight, I can feel that. And it's often in the chest or the heart or the torso where we stop emotions, kind of affect coming up. And so, yeah, that would be the number one thing really that's helped me understand and get in touch with the experience of what was and what is, and to stay with that rather than describing it too much. And that's been just unfolding over the last 20 years. And that's how I work with people as well, is to, because women particularly, we're particularly articulate. Most babies, female babies, can talk about one in whole sentences. So we're very adept at talking about it, and it can be quite jarring for women actually to kind of stop doing that and experience their bodies in a different way, and for men as well, to really experience themselves. So I think that would be my number one way. Yeah, shifted that.
And when you experience the emotion instead of just feeling the emotion, is it easier to
Process?
basically process or to transmute or to understand why you're feeling that emotion?
Yeah, because say I've got let's stay with embarrassed. That's coming up. Will be a rising energy. I'll say breathe with that and go, my experience was I just tripped over oh, I felt disconnected from people. That's what it was. So embarrassed completely disappears. And then we can get to the root experience of, okay, I felt disconnected, and I also felt fear that I was going to smack my elbow and then have to go to hospital or something. So I can then process more easily, oh, it's disconnection and fear. Okay, so I'm connected to myself. My elbow's okay. I can then process the fear out through the breath, and I'm okay again. So really bringing myself back to this okayness, and knowing that when I'm holding something, there's a tightness. When there's a fear, there's different sensations, and I need to stay with that and work through it. Yeah, does that answer your question?
Yeah, that's a very powerful and I think somewhat unique perspective on, feeling and using intuition and the tying it to the emotion. And again, just the emotion is, it sounds like from your perspective, basically the temporal experience of what your body is experiencing.
Yeah, I mean, as humans, we tend to like to communicate our experience, but it can become a way of actually talking about it without feeling it and dissociating. So I'm not saying emotions are wrong or we shouldn't do it. It's just, can I actually stay with the experience of it whilst I'm talking about it? And that's the basic rule of trauma therapy. We don't sit there and talk about trauma, or else the nervous system is re-experiencing it. We get resourced. We create a sense of safety and security enough within the body and the nervous system and the brain, so that whatever was trapped and couldn't be felt previously can actually come up and out clean, rather than the defenses going, oh, that was too much, let's shut it down again. So that there's just an ability to process as we get clearer and clearer and more resourced.
Beautiful. Yeah, I love that explanation and the perspective that you have. And so the last question that I typically ask everyone as we begin to individually heal the traumas, individually heal ourselves, we start to create this healing effect in the collective. So from your perspective, what does the external world start to look like as more and more and more humans begin to heal their trauma and experience it and allow it to allow their natural frequency, the frequency that they were meant to have when they came here, to exist and to emanate into the world? What does that external world start to look like?
I think that we can all love each other more and accept each other more, for being different and for being the same at the same time. Because the wars and the conflicts, I do believe, are an externalization of everyone's internal conflict. And if we bring it back to the womb, then if we've got a healthy connection with our womb, and we're aware that, and men too, they're the space of creation, and we're all aware that the baby's consciousness can feel the consciousness of the parents at conception. And if they're made with love, then they're going to feel that, and they're going to land in a place of love. And that's going to produce very different humans. And that will make a massive difference, because a baby that feels connected to and loved is going to come out a very different human. So I think overall what it could look like is more peace and harmony within and between us.
Yeah, I would 100% agree, and I'm very much looking forward to experiencing, even if it's just a fraction of that reality, experiencing that reality. And again, we're all here to experience this shifting consciousness from each one of our unique perspectives. Again, the more that we heal, the more that we heal that trauma that we've experienced as young to mid to even in the older ages, we get back to that reason that we've incarnated, the reason that we're here, the reason that we've come to this planet to experience whatever we've come here to experience. So the sooner you can make connection with your soul's mission, your soul's reason for incarnating, the more time you have to enjoy that process and to do it, instead of feeling like it's crunched up into, the last 5 years of your life or the last 10 years of your life. And I think where we are in humanity is, people are having these midlife crises at 22 and 25 and 30, and
Great.
We're starting to see what that experience is like when people wake up to their true essence well before, this 40 or 50 or 60-year-old experience, and having to really build that into this very short period of time to experience what you've come here to experience, why you've come here to experience.
Absolutely. My cat knows it's
Well,
the
Melanie,
end of our conversation as well.
She's ready to play with you,
She
so I will let you
totally
go.
is, yeah.
For those who are looking to learn a little bit more about your services and maybe get on a discovery call with you, what's the best place to get in contact?
Yeah, everything is on my website, which is thesacredwomb.com. My podcast is on there. My trauma healing is on there. My course is on there. It's all on there. There's loads of free stuff on there as well. So there's plenty to explore. And if anyone has any questions, you're welcome to email me or connect with me on Instagram and message me on there.
Perfect. Well, I really appreciate this conversation. It has opened up my understanding of the feminine, the divine feminine, the sacred womb, both physically and metaphysically.
Oh,
and it's wonderful to hear such a beautiful and fresh perspective on where we're moving towards in humanity. So I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Joe. And thanks for your questions, and thanks for asking me on. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you again for listening to Changing the Channel with Joe Garner. If you enjoyed the show, please follow the podcast, hit the bell to know when a new show comes out, share with a friend, and rate us on whatever platform you're tuning in from. It helps get these messages out to more people to create the collective shift in reality we are here to experience. Make sure you interact with the Q&A and poll sections of the show so I can continue to provide content you enjoy. Finally, check out my website in the show notes to become a VIP of Changing the Channel and join the shift that is happening.